Hey everyone, it's Stephanie. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to talk about things that I overlooked or mistakes that I made whenever I was trying to recover from my binge eating disorder. There were so many things, especially things that I look at lately, that I wish I would have done differently, or I wish I would have just known whenever I was in the beginning stages of recovery. When I first started recovery, I was extremely obsessive over food. So my recovery was more about fixing my relationship with food. There was a point that I've talked about before where I was severely binging, and there was a point where I was severely restricting. And I was not classified as anorexic just because my body fat percentage and my weight weren't low enough. Whenever I was in the beginning stages of recovery, like I said, my main goal was focused on fixing my relationship with food. So I had my relationship with food, I was so based on the good and the bad. The good, this is good food, this is bad food. I need as little of this as I could possibly get to be skinny. And if I wanted to gain weight, I needed as much of this as I could possibly get. Like, it was just this weird, these weird extremes that I had set in my head. And, like I said, with the good and the bad food, if I saw an Oreo, I would not let myself eat one Oreo, because in my head I told myself, if I eat this one, I will eat everything. I will eat all of it, and that's when I gain weight. I pretty much told myself I had no self-control and that I couldn't have this because it would lead to weight gain. So in the very beginning, it was really, really hard for me to understand my why. And my why is, the reason why what really was the catalyst that pushed you into this eating disorder. And a lot of times, for the longest time, I told myself, oh, well, I just wanted to be skinny. And so that's why I was eating the way that I was. And that's the way that I was eating, was the restriction and everything is what started my eating disorder. Well, the more I started to go into, to get into therapy, and I started to work on brain spotting with my therapist, we soon realized that that was my way of control. Whenever I had started my health journey, I was in a place where I had absolutely no control over my life. I was stuck. I was extremely depressed. All of these emotions were going on, and my life was literally an emotional roller coaster. And I was not happy with my body at all at the time. So I started cutting out foods, and I've talked about this before about how severe I was when it first started with cutting out foods. I was cutting out fruit because there are, too many carbs or whatever, or too much sugar. I started cutting out fats. I would literally just eat vegetables because they were, negative calories, and protein because I knew that that's what I needed. And in my head I was telling myself that's the main thing that I needed was protein. So it went from, a normal diet to severe restriction. And so I had this belief in my head that all of this had started from, just wanting to be skinny, wanting to go on a diet. Well, when I started to get into therapy, we started to look at everything else that was going on in my life. I had dropped out of college. I had quit a really good job that I had, and the job that I went to was pretty good, but it was the reason that I quit my other job just made me feel like I was so insignificant. It made me feel like I had no worth. And that's why I quit, and that just had stuck with me in my head. I got out of a really long relationship, and it was just all of these things. My life was everywhere. And when I started controlling food, I realized that I had control over something, complete control. And it was manipulating the way I felt. It was manipulating the way I looked. And although I felt great at the time, it was, even with the bad times, it was something that I was able to manipulate. You know, whenever I would binge, I was able to feel that, you know, that serotonin, my serotonin levels rise right away, and I was able to feel that bliss feeling. And, you know, even though after, it's probably one of the worst feelings I've ever felt in the world, but it was just that feeling of being in control, which is so crazy to me to think of it now, because with binging, that was why I got so sick, was because I felt like I had no control over how much I ate or what I ate when I was eating. And I don't know, it's just so mind-blowing to me now thinking of that. And that was actually one of the things that had helped me recover, was the dietitian that I was seeing had told me, you know, with binging, what a lot of people don't see is it's about control, but you don't have control. And it was just working on putting those things together and telling myself every time that I was in the middle of a binge that I had no control. I was not in control of my body. And it was like, for some reason, something that just flipped in my brain, and it scared me in a way. Hi, Baba. Hi, Koa. Come here. Come here. We got a new puppy a few days ago and he's not happy. With binging, that was something that I wish I would have realized sooner on. And I know that was something that wasn't really in my control, you know, because at first I thought it was normal and I told myself that it would stop. It wasn't until I had made it this consistent pattern that I decided to get help. So that is something that I wish I would have noticed or realized early on, but compared to a lot of people, I've heard many people's stories about going through this for years and years, and them, you know, and not clicking for them until like 5 years down the road. And I was so scared that was gonna be me. With the anorexia, and I say that loosely because my anorexia was not a actual medical diagnosis due to, like I said, my body weight and my body fat percentage. It was only based on my signs and my eating patterns. But with that, I had convinced myself that I needed veggies, I needed very low calorie, low sugar fruits, and I needed protein because that was essential. That was all that I needed. And I had these beliefs around calorie intake and all of this, that the less I weighed, the less I had to eat, which is true, but I was doing it in a way that I would drop, 2 pounds within 3 days. And so I would be like, oh, that's another reason to drop another 100 calories, and I just kept making all of these excuses. And I know it sounds insane, but it was like all of these things I saw on Instagram with these, it was like all these things I saw on Instagram that I felt had to be the truth. They had to be honest. And I was so desperate for answers. I was so desperate for something that I would follow these things. And it's so crazy to me now, just like looking back at it and thinking back on it. But I don't know, when I finally decided to get help and I was finally seeing a counselor was when I started doing actual research and looking into actual articles and studies that have been done on the metabolism and essential foods and all of these things. That was when I realized how bad it was. It wasn't when I went to my doctor, because I would tell my doctor, that I was binging on fruits and vegetables, because that was one thing that I picked up, was I thought binging on fruit and vegetables was a lot better than binging on, Pop-Tarts and Oreos and all that. But it wasn't until, you know, I was going to sleep and I was still feeling the same way. I was still feeling that same pain in my stomach. I still hated myself. All these feelings, I was still feeling them. But, you know, my doctor was telling me that it was okay because it's just vegetables, you know, at least they're healthy. And I was getting told that so often that I made myself believe that. And as soon as I started looking into these articles and they were explaining, you know, it doesn't matter if it's a burger or if it's celery that you're eating. If you are eating to the point where you are making yourself sick, past the point of satiation, you are expanding your stomach, you're making your blood sugar spike, you're doing all of these things to your body that, you know, yeah, a hamburger could be more harmful in other ways, but you're still harming your body. You're still giving your body these signals. And I wish that somebody would have just told me that in the beginning. So yeah, as I started looking into these studies, I started realizing that what I was doing was not normal. The way I was eating was not normal, even though I had gave myself every reason to believe that it was. I was not healthy. And it was like once I noticed that, I started seeing it in the mirror, and I started seeing, you know, pictures where I started taking pictures of my back, and I don't know, I would look at them, and I remember even asking my sister before, like, do I really look this bony and this skinny in real life? Like, I don't even find myself attractive anymore. And she was like, no, you're fine. It's, you know, and she would try to help me as much as she could. God bless her soul, because I know it was not easy. But I don't know, it was just, once I started educating myself, I started to notice more and more the toxic and destructive patterns that I had set in my life, and it was a lot easier to break those, you know, getting the proper education. Another thing that I really wish I would have realized was that gaining weight is not the end all. A lot of influencers, the way that they have gone through recovery is just going all in and, you know, eating whatever they wanted until they felt like their relationship with food was fixed, which I can respect a lot of their reasonings behind it, but for a lot of people, I don't see how that would work. You know, I feel like it would make their relationship worse with food, because I know for me, I had a lot of people tell me that maybe I should do that. But one of the biggest things that I have always felt guilty about when overeating is feeling like I'm going to go back to that weight that I was when I was binging. And just, it's not even, you know, it doesn't matter if my habits were the same as they were then. It's just seeing that number on the scale brings back everything. It brings back all of those memories, all of those thoughts, and I just feel disgusted with myself. I feel like for a lot of people that might not be the best way to go about gaining weight. There are easier ways to go about it, ways that, you know, that will make you feel better about it. For instance, when I was going through all this, I stopped going to family gatherings because my family, you know, would make comments about my eating, make comments about me not eating enough, stuff like that. And I know that for them, this was just them being concerned, or this was them thinking that they were joking. But for me, it would hit different. For me, it would trigger something. But for me, it would trigger something, and it would make me want to binge, and it would end up where I was in the kitchen where nobody else was, eating the rest of the cake that was left over, which was half of the pan. And it was just never good for me. And so I had one person hold me accountable, which was my sister-in-law, and she did this for quite a while, for the longest time, and she still, to this day, I am so thankful for her, because she has helped me so much with this. Like, I can't even begin to explain. and she just always knew what to say. She just always knew. And so I had her hold me accountable. And it was finally where I would go to a family gathering and I would, eat whatever I wanted. And, I would check in with her every once in a while, or she would say something to me. I knew when to stop. And I was happy, and I would go home and I was just so happy that I was present with my family. I was able to spend time with them, and, we would have a great time. And it just started to, just those moments started to overtake the moments of fear of food, and the bad moments, because family events, to me, I would not remember any of them. I just remember sat there staring at the food or holding myself back or binging on food or anything. I don't remember, I wouldn't remember the good times. I would only remember the bad. And it got to where the good started to outweigh the bad in that. And I started to, enjoy going to family gatherings to see my family, and food didn't become such a priority. And even with Hans now, he has helped me. He's also helped me so much in this whole journey. And with my relationship with food, he's been so helpful, so understanding. And even when we'd go to family events and I would still, he would just see the anxiety in my face, and he'd walk me through it. He'd talk me through it. He would help me any way that he could. This is Koa. He's the new member of our family. He's such a baby. But we went to Dallas one time, and I remember every place we would go, I would just get anxious, so anxious to the point where it would make me so sick that I wouldn't even want to eat food. Not only is it frustrating for him, it's frustrating for me. This was whenever he first started to get more comfortable helping me cope with my eating disorder. And we went to so many places and had so much good food. And even when we go to Albuquerque and all of these places, we eat the best food that I've ever had in my whole life. And that is what I remember. Sometimes I do remember, sitting there thinking do I really want to eat this? What if I gain weight? Or, all these things. But for the most part, I just remember how amazing that meal was, or how much fun we had together, or the things that we talked about. And I can't tell you exactly where that shift happened, but just working on that and having people that hold you accountable and transitioning that mindset of this food is bad, I can't eat it, it will make me gain weight, to I have a family that I love, and if eating a piece of cake means, spending time with my family and having some fun, I'm gonna eat that piece of cake, and it's probably delicious and I will love it. And that's okay, because it's not like I'm eating cake every day of the week. And it took a lot for me to get through that mindset. I can't tell you guys that it happened overnight. I can't tell you that it even happened within a year, but I can tell you that it happened. And I still, to this day, have anxiety around food. I get anxious around food, but it's something that is getting a lot better, and it's something that I still work on every single day. And the very last thing is the health coaching program that I attended. I attended this specific program because in everything that I had watched about it, everything that I had read about it, they talk about how much they had grown personally. And even the co-founders talk about how the way that they did this program was, there's a coaching program, or coaching others. And then there's also a pillar for coaching yourself, whether that's going through an eating disorder, going through, financial situations, anything. They had coaches there for you at all times. If you needed to call a life coach and just have a session, they had that there for you. They had so many resources. And just that one pillar in itself was probably the biggest resource for me. I had learned so much about myself, and I actually had written out a program a 90-day program for myself. So my 90-day programs are what I do for my clients. And I had written one out for myself and had taken myself through that program. And then another person that I had met in the program helped keep me accountable and helped use, what she had learned on me. And it had a huge impact on me, a huge impact. And just having the resources that we had was totally worth it. So if you guys are interested in something like that, I definitely recommend getting into a good health coach program, because it can definitely be worth it. The program that I got into was the Health Coach Institute. Their credentials are a little different than a lot of other health coach institutes, so be sure to make sure that you are okay with their credentials. But that was something that had really, really helped me with my recovery. Once again, it gave me, the resources that I needed. It gave me the proper education that I needed. And it just, I don't even know how to explain it. It was life-changing for me. So yeah, those are my top 3 tips on things that I wish I knew earlier that probably would have helped me a lot sooner, but I'm thankful that I was able to go through these and, these trials and these errors so I could help other people like you get through whatever you're getting through. So my top tips are educating yourself, making sure that you're getting a proper education, not WebMD, not Pinterest, not Instagram, getting a proper education, understanding what is going on with your mind, with your body, getting those proper resources, a good primary care provider, seeing a dietitian if needed, seeing a therapist. I mean, these people, everybody has this idea around them that they are who you need to go to when you are having a life crisis. But trust me, seeing these people regularly will keep you from that life crisis and keep you from going to them when you absolutely need them. So yeah, keeping yourself educated, getting the proper resources that you need, and also having people that hold you accountable. Loved ones that aren't afraid to tell you the truth, but aren't going to judge everything you do, that know how to talk to you and know how to comfort you. I promise that there's one person that you do have in your life, and if you don't have that person in your life, there are health coaches just like me who we talk to your primary care providers, we interact with whoever is giving you instruction on what you need to do, and we are the ones who push you through that process, help you get to where you need to be. And we do, we provide you with all the necessary resources if needed, but accountability is the biggest thing. Without it, I feel like nothing else is as important. So I hope that those helped. If you guys have any other questions or concerns, please just send me an email. I'm always available. And other than that, I hope you guys have a great day.